Okay, everyone, shall we start? So we can join. Good. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. As you will notice, the temperature is still better than it was because we put so much pressure on the building owner so that they would turn on the cooling system just for us. So no one see that. So today we have the great pleasure to have Chris on stage. Obviously, I'll let Chris introduce himself. It's a very important and it matters a lot to us to have this session today because we Agile started from the startup culture, and we had a startup background, a startup step on our face. And naturally, as you know, as the company grow and as Agile grow, we had also to go beyond this startup scene. And we gradually started introducing and getting exposed to the corporate world and those big companies. Sometimes at the beginning we were a bit scared of all the noise and the complexity and sometimes the perceived lack of innovation or good things being done and good principles being applied. But the more we grew, the more we entered into that landscape, we realized that we were really wrong. Yes, it's slower, that's for sure, but slow doesn't mean bad, because we also experienced what happened in the startup industry over the past 2 or 3 years, where everything got accelerated due to loads of cash, but loads of people not knowing how to use that cash and made loads of mistakes, but really fast. And now we're in a situation where I would say that yes, startups go faster, but they also do loads of stupid things, and they also tend to reinvent a lot of wheel. Whereas you would have larger companies that are doing things slower, but sometimes take the time of trying to do things better. So I would say that you will discover today a different story of a company that is really big and trying to change things in a sustainable way with good things, bad things, make things, and certainly it's not over. And afterwards we'll also discuss a bit that duality of what Chris has lived, what I am living, and what we live with our customers, and trying to find a good balance between you. So without further introduction, I'll let the stage to you, Chris.
Perfect, thank you, Timothée. Hi everyone, thank you everyone for being here. I have, thanks to Dualoop and Timothée, the chance to give some experience, share back about maybe how bigger corporations deal with digitalization, with agile transformation, and also what you just said about the complexities and the advantages that you can have. And I think at the end, when you compare the startup world and the big world, and you try to bring it together, I think that's also where you find, I would say, the benefits. And of course, then it doesn't work. Okay. So maybe I will not put my CV there, but for me, what I wanted to say, I have 22 years in the IT, always been in technology. For me, it's not bad, because for me, the digitalization started 40 years ago when we put it ERP in the systems and then in the companies, and then we moved on. So IT, technology, digitalization, at the end, we work with technology. The only thing is how we put ourselves, how we want to grow. I started as an operational person, so I'm happy to say that 20 years ago, I was with a headset at ING and help desk, and I was helping people from the front end. But I had the opportunity in my career to move to people manager role, to start with, I would say, managing a team of 4 or 5 people when I was 24, 25. I must admit that I'm really sorry for the guys that I had to manage 20 years ago, because I was managing it in the wrong way, like micromanagement, like you need to do that and that and that and that. And I think that's a way where I would say a lot of people make the mistakes because we are not trained or we not receive the right tools when you start to lead a team. So that's also for me why sharing things now is quite important, because I think when you do that and you show the modeling, at the end people see there is a different way how to manage things. I built experience for 10 years, I would say, working in international pharma companies, recycling companies, health insurance, and the last 5 years, I would say I had the privilege to lead as a CIO at Cigna. So Cigna is a health insurance, a team of 150 people, and at Solvay I had, till a few months back, I had more or less 200 people organization. But that's also why for me it's not the number that counts, it's the impact that you can bring, the culture that you can bring, the values, how to push things forward. What for me is important, and that's on the top and on the bottom, and you don't see it very well, but it's I think you need to lead, and everything you need to do is with your values, by the bottom of your heart. Where do you believe in it? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to deal with your colleagues? And which company you want to follow and you want to work for? Because it's also where you put your energy, where you have 40 hours a day, a week, even more for most of us, that you invest your time, so you need to believe in it. And for me, I would say it's teamwork, very important. It's also, you need to have objectives, you need to bring value. It's being smart, I think. What we do is if you reflect on it, it's also interesting. It's autonomous, it's performance, it's fairness, and at the end we do also with fun. I think it's also very important that we have fun at work. I think that's also why for me, Agile, it's a way how to do things, or digital and Agile is a way how to do things. But it's more the values and the culture that you bring with that is more important, and how you create the framework that the teams can, I would say, deliver, can be happy and engage and do the things they think it's the right thing to do. And certainly this autonomy, it's probably something when I was saying 20 years ago, you need to do that and that and that. You lose the autonomy of the people, and that's where I think we need completely to shift it around. So I will try to be short, because the thing that I will present, I can speak for 4 hours, but I don't think that's the right thing. So I will try to make something complex in something easy, and having, of course, then afterwards some discussion and questions, because I think that's also important. So where was Solvay? And maybe to mention for the one that do not know, Solvay, till end of last year, because Solvay split in two, was a Belgian company, global presence, 23,000 people worldwide, almost 13 billion revenue. The IT organization was 600 people, internal people, 400 time and material freelance consultant, and if you counted all the managed services around it, it was 1,000 people more. So when you speak about a big boat, this is 2,000 people, IT, digital, OT organization. And then 23,000 people worldwide, so purely global. So making a change there, you don't make it like with a fingertip, it's quite complex, it's quite preparation. But of course, you can also say it's a lot of preparation, or you deliver it in an agile way of doing things. But OT is operation technology. So it's in the manufacturing. It's mainly where you have the IoTs and all the stuff that makes the machine working in factories. So, of course, to make a transformation, and I will 2-3 slides more on theory and show how we did it done at Solvay. You start with first, okay, what's the problem? And in 2020, 2021, low level of satisfaction from the business, low level of satisfaction from the employees in terms of IT, OT, and digital. So, okay, that's the first statement. Quite expensive. Maybe to mention, in 2021, the budget was 300 million for the technology, 150 for the run, 150 million for build. So it's 300 million, so it's quite a lot of budget. Delay, of course. Who don't know an IT project that was on time or that was delivered on time? It's not so often, so that was common problem. Very siloed, so IT was not speaking with digital, was not speaking with OT. Everyone was in different structure, and still the world is changing in a fast way with all the new technologies, all the competition. So this is a mandate from the board to say, guys, there is a problem, fix it. Okay. So where do you start when you have the problem? At the moment, you need to say, okay, where do you start? So I think, and again, it's more theory, but it's the reality is, where do you want to go? Because where do you want to start is what's the ultimate dream? What do you want to achieve? What are the objectives and the vision? I love always these three things, because when you know where to go, how does this apply with people, with technology and processes? This is a framework that started 30 years ago. I can bet in 30 years we will still think about people, process, and technology. But then it's really thinking, okay, how do we want to have our people working? Which kind of culture we want to bring? Which technologies? And with processes. And that's to deliver this vision. Then you know where you are. You know where you want to be. You have a gap. You need to understand, and you need to try to see where you can fix this gap. And then you build a plan. Of course, if it's small, you have a small plan. On that one, this was a multi-year plan to realize, and all the big corporations, and I always take, because I follow it quite closely, is ING. ING, they did, or BNP is also doing the same. They started in 2017-18. They are still working in this transformation 5-6 years after, because it's a big transformation. Solvay and Syensqo, because Solvay split at end of last year. Solvay and Syensqo, there will be a version 2, a version 3, and it will be continuous improvement. It's of course also logic. It's not that you implement something and for 10 years you keep it how it is. So now I will be a little bit more concrete. So this is the theory. Okay, you know where to go. You know what you want for the people. You know which technology, which processes, the plan. So you need to have this operating model. Yep. Okay. So an operating model, and I will not go into the detail, but that's when you make a change. You need to say, okay, you have this vision, this strategy. Those are the aspects that you will need to change. I will not go into all the details, but I want to put here in terms of processes, in terms of culture, in terms of talents, what we did at Solvay, bringing that theory into reality. So we started with company vision from Solvay at the time. The business vision was we need to grow, we need to bring new businesses, we need to simplify, so operational efficiency, and we need to have good operations. So that's what we are to start at. Based on that, we built a digital strategy, how to support. And for Solvay, I would say we had different dimensions, business dimensions. Chemical company, and every sector has different dimensions or business processes. You have research, you have operations, so you need to research what will be the new molecules, how to build things built in different way. You need to operationalize it and put it in a manufacturing. You need to sell it, so the customer journey. And of course, you need to think ahead and prepare the future. And then you have a layer of foundational things that enables, I would say, those 4 dimensions. That's also how, and you will see it later, we built the new digital technology team. So we merged the name IT, DT, and OT in DT, digital technology, into one organization to be able to support, I would say, those 4 dimensions. Again, what I said is we need to know from where we start and where to go. So we said, okay, how do we operate right now? We have, I would say, silos. We have no transparency. We don't have end-to-end accountability and ownership. Our projects takes long, costly, and doesn't bring the right value. We don't collaborate. Everyone works in his silo. And at the end, we do digital teams, a lot of POCs, proof of values, proof of technology, but we don't operate it. We don't, I would say, industrialize it. And so you have like 20 small things there, and that doesn't bring the right value, and that no one knows even after how to decommission and who is using it. So that's where we said, okay, those are the principles, business priority aligned. Everything we do is for the business. What's the value that you bring in the business? So that's the first thing to think about it. End-to-end accountability. Oh, it's not me, it's the other, it's whatever. No, you are, the product team is end-to-end accountable from the run and the build and the budget and the security and the operations and whatever. Incremental, don't try to build everything in once. Again, agile principles, and the 2 other ones speak from themselves, and I already explained. Then processes, that's what we discussed. Okay, what are the processes that we need to do? How do we build this new operating model? Oh, let's go for Scrum, let's go for Safe, oh, let's go for Spotify, let's go for whatever. I think there are plenty of things, and then you have agile gurus, agile coaches, agile whatever. That's it. It should be in that way because in the book it's written it should be that. No, come on. I think everything needs to be tailor-made. You need to see where you are, what you want to achieve, and of course there are those frameworks, and you need to adjust based on the company needs, on where you want to achieve. What I also put, and that's also something for me very important, because if you take Spotify's model, etc., it's more the operational design is how to build, but you also have the run part. And rolled, you have ITSM, ETIL, etc., so the change, the release process, the incident management, also good frameworks. And it's not ETIL versus Agile, it's how do you put ITIL or whatever ITSM framework and Agile together. And there you need to find, again, that's why you need to tailor-made, because you have different levels of maturity, and that's also why you increment the change, because, of course, you want to increase the maturity based on the time. But it's not in opposition, and that's why you say end-to-end accountability. The product manager needs to have this in mind. So, I come back to Solvay case. So I said we had customer. So, maybe step back. So now we have this full view. We know that we have customer journey, we have research, we have operations, we have also corporations, we have also employees. How do you build product teams? Because at the end, you need also to create your product teams. So for example, the customer journey is, okay, this is a journey, this is how we want to sell the product, how we want to price. Okay, what are the product teams, how we separate this, and how we have this journey represented, and why do we need product managers, and then that will need to work on their product. The same for research, and I would say operations and corporation, but something that was missing on that slide is also employees. I think employees is also, an employee has a journey and has also some products to be supported, because we also need incorporation. When you have 23,000 people, they also need to have the tools and technology to work. We have the journeys, you see it on the top, but of course the journeys cannot work without products, without technology platforms. So we also need to have horizontals where we split the technology and grouped. And of course you can say this is 4 groups, it can be 10 groups as well, but I think at the end you need also to be realistic. And so how we did was a data layer, was everything about business application and homemade applications, enterprise business services. We had infra and workplace layer, and then we had a cybersecurity layer as well. On the left, transformation and enablement, because you need as well to have a layer that surround all the blocks. For example, how to deal with vendors, how to deal with architecture, how to deal with agile methodologies, how to deal with change. So that was the glue, I would say, to ensuring that this will work. Then a layer down, you see the same, you have the journey, then you have the products, and then you have these technological platforms. And then per product, what we did, we had one product owner, and one product manager, and depending on the size of the product, you could have 1 to different squads. Every squad had a different product owner. You can change it in a way around, you can manage, we can discuss it around, where the product manager was reporting on the IT side, or digital technology side, where the product owner, there could be debates. I'm a favor to have this in the business. Some people say this should be in the IT side or the digital side. I think depending again on the maturity of the organization, and that's also some of the learnings that I want to share, is I have my view and I could have strong views on certain things, but I think imposing things is never good. It's at the end you need to adjust, and sometimes it can work in one way and sometimes it can work in the other way. And I think that's also part of the agility, is to let certain things go and let this flexibility to say if it works, and it keeps the high-level principles, go for it. Because I can tell you, and I need to laugh now, this discussion about product owner, is it business on IT? I think probably we spend like with a team of 5-6 people for 20 hours those discussions on a high level. So just thinking about the cost to just discuss on something that at the end no one was in agreement, yeah, it's also not efficient. Maybe also to mention, for me, where I would have loved to go further, but we didn't went at that level. And that's often in big corporations, we are driven by the financial results, the quarterly results. So it means that the CFO needs to know predictably, okay, what do we spend, what is the value, they need to go to the shareholders, to the board, etc., etc., it needs to be published. So a lot of those companies, it's difficult to move to funding a product team based on funding a project. And so we still have this project-driven mentality based on the financial mechanism that is not ready to say, okay, let's fund it just product, and I put 1 million, and at the end of the year, let's calculate the value that this 1 million has given. This is not working. Plus the budget changed, and that's something that is pity, but every 2 months or 3 months, you have big management meetings to say, oh, by the way, you had 150 million, but I'm not sure we have the right sales, so maybe now you need to have 130 million. So you need to find 20 million savings. And then for 2 months, you're starting to think, so again, this is not the right thing to do, but this is how big corporations work with financial results and financial imperatives. That brings, I would say, complexity in terms of the way how to operate. So what we did, we created a kind of portfolio board, a portfolio review, to ensuring that when a product manager had an idea about, okay, there we need to fund, and we also did the transformation not in a big bang, but based on product that had to be created, was we did some 4 stages. Was first the intake, ideation. Okay, I have an idea. Is the idea linked to the value? Let's challenge it. Let's have the checkbox with the business, also with the CIO and with some of the internal stakeholders, say, does this idea make sense compared to other ideas that we have in this big pot? Because again, we speak about more than 2,000 people that needs to work together, so let's ensuring that we prioritize the right things. When this idea is prioritized, then you have a mandate to work more in detail. So work, for example, okay, which are the vendors that you need to bring in? Which are the technical architecture? What is the impact for cybersecurity? What are the impacts? And also, because we didn't move from one side to another side directly, do we go in an agile way of working? Do we have the right teams, the right skills, the right people? Or do we go still waterfall? Because you have this double, I would say, way of working, the time that you have your full organization going into this agile way of working. Again, then if you have a checkbox, then you have the budget, and then you can create your squad, your product organization, and starting to deliver in an agile way of working. But you have to put those two, I would say, intermediate steps where you say, if you product fund, you don't care, you have your product manager, has his budget, and then in a way he can deliver what he thinks is beneficial in partnership with the business. There it was still like a control mechanism because, yeah, lack of maturity. It was the beginning, but also this financial pressure from the CFOs and so on. I will not go into the detail, but we also had to document a lot of things because, again, you can say agile is people above processes, but when you need to align 2,000 people in the same way of working, you need to have basic documentation. You cannot say, hey guys, this is the way, here 1 hour separation, you go to training and tomorrow you work in a different way. It's also something that you need to also understand, and probably a big difference between the startup and small organization and big one. You have people that are 55, 60 years that have started with the IT organization from the bottom, and they didn't do a bad job, they did really good job the last 30 years, but the world had changed, and they also need them to change maybe the last 10 years of their career to change in another way of doing things. So it's also not easy. I am just thinking now that every year I become older. I say maybe in 10 or 15 years, if someone will say, hey, by the way, you did the 40 years last year, nah, that's not the right way to do, you did it a different way. I'm not sure that I will say, oh yes, I will go directly. I will also need to have some adaptation time and some change time. So I think that's also something why in big corporation it takes time, because you have a lot of people that needs to change with different maturities. Also if it's global, you have people that were in China, in small town, whatever, and you need to train them how to work in a global way, in an agile way. So it's also, this is complex. So at the end, I wanted to make it very short, and we did it in the beginning in a very short way, not so many processes documented, but there was a need for the organization and a push to document, not fully, because, okay, that's not agile, but more than we initially thought, because otherwise people were feeling lost. One of the last slides, it's culture. I think for me, what I mentioned in the beginning, the values, for me, it's important. That's why I strongly believe in this digital, agile way of doing things. Because we discussed, okay, what do we want as an organization, how our people are working. We want customer obsessed, again, bringing value. This is what we need to deliver. We need to collaborate, we need to have agility and adaptable. We also need to be accountable and fun. Those are the 5 cultural dimensions that we have assessed the full organization. We have bring some trainings, but everyone, because with that change, we have hired more than 120 people, new people joining, product managers, agile coaches, etc., etc. They were assessed also on that one, not just on the technical part of the process part, but also on the cultural part about let's make it together. Again, people above processes. I wanted to share some quick tips. First, and that's sometimes, and I can also say it, probably I take it as a mea culpa. You could have the tendency to say, okay, now you have your mandate, you know where to go. You sit in a team with your team in an office and you draw the things and you say, let's do that, let's move the IT organization. You need to have the business. So we were 2,000 people, internal IT guys and girls. Business needs to be there. In fact, they need to see the value. They need to be part of it. They need to be also product owners. So for me, it's really like building some skills also to discuss with the business. I think a lot of you know that. You have the tanker and the speedboat. The tanker moves not so fast. The speedboat can go left and right. When there is a storm, the speedboat often disappears. The tanker continues. So I think it's not, again, not one or the other. I think it's the 10, and that's why I think it's good to be here as well, is the successful organizations will be the ones that will be able to have the tanker and the speedboats together, working with startups, working with economy, understanding how the speedboat goes, but also the speedboat knows that if you go too far and there is a storm, you will never go back because you will be lost. So also how to deal and how to be closely interacting with I would say the bigger corporation. And again, everything is finding the balance. I cannot give a miracle, but just thinking that it's not bad and wrong, it's a way how to do it. Communication, and I put by purpose those two slides, two pictures, because you need to have formal communication. I think it's important. You need to discuss with the C-levels, you need to discuss with the board, you need to discuss with a lot of politics. But informal communication is also, for me, more important. Unfortunately, we did this during the COVID times, but I still think that being in the office, being in the coffee machine, having those discussions, those big changes, to change 2,000 people, it's by blah, 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 and blah, 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 communicating. And also understanding what are the concerns. Understanding like, oh, did you think about that? Because we have seen this and this and this. And that's, for me, very important. Where also sometimes when you want to go too fast, you forget this aspect. It's formal and informal communication. Last slide. Rome has not been built in one day. I think that's also something that you need to forget. And maybe as a startup, and maybe I'm wrong by saying that, is you can go fast and you say, oh, by the way, we did that and now we move there. Here it takes a lot of time sometimes to build it, because of course you need to think about all the things, you need to bring all the people together, and you need to be patient. We did it, I would say, in the implementation in 6 months. It were a lot of nights that working for doing it in 6 months. I would say if I would have to do it in another way, I would take 1 year. Take more even, because the thing is we wanted to go to change the thing too fast, and the people were not ready. Again, different ways. Maybe the people that were just there starting, they say, okay, I'm with you, but you had other people that were, I would say, not with us. In the other way around, if you go too far, too slow, and I can give an example of a bank, I will not disclose, they did 2 years drawings in the thing, and it took 3 years to implement. So it took the agile transformation was done in a waterfall way, and it took 5 years. We try to, so again, it's finding the right middle, the right balance based on the culture and the maturity of the organization. Thank you.